Hey, Crystal Maiden here for part 35. Wow, that was a failure. This area is kind of annoying. I guess it kind of reminds me of the final room in the Wind Temple. I'm not sure why. Probably because of this gap, but the gap is actually a bottomless pit this time around. But yeah, this is sort of a callback to the puzzle where you would hit a jar on a switch with a bow and arrow and destroy it, and that was how you would progress. Here you have to get rid of something with the Dominion Rod to progress. So even though it's repeating a puzzle, it's doing it in a fresh way. So it still feels fresh. And that's another room that kind of feels more like Arbiter's Grounds than the Temple of Time, because it's all dark golden. Now this boss is relatively creative in how you fight it, at least in the fact that you're using the creative dungeon item against it. But unfortunately, this is another example of Twilight Princess being unoriginal. This exact same boss appeared in Ocarina of Time. The original Goma in Ocarina of Time attacked with its own body though, not a laser that it fired out of its eye. So, already it's being original, but on the other hand, you once again have to shoot its eye with an arrow. Of course, that's always how Goma is in every game. Like in Zelda 1, you had to shoot it with an arrow. So, it's not really fair to blame Twilight Princess for that. And there's something inherently satisfying about smacking a giant spider with a hammer. So, I like this. Like this is pretty creative boss. Well, sort of creative anyways. I don't really like that it does this though. Why does every boss in the game have to make you fight enemies? It's just a distraction that makes you target enemies instead of them. Like, at least the boss of the Forest Temple didn't do that. But yeah, see, that's why the laser can get annoying. Because it can attack you. Well, by definition, you have to stop and stay in one place, looking up at the ceiling with your bow and arrow in order to hit it in the eye. But if it shoots its laser, then it's probably going to hit you while you're vulnerable doing that. So that can be kind of cheap. I mean, like you have to hurry and press A and run away. I think it's going to shoot its laser if you take too long to shoot its eye. But yeah, that's easily my favorite part of the boss fight. But look, that is so bullshit. Why can't you use, like, the statue very clearly hit the spider with the hammer 3 times, but it only counted once. That's so arbitrary. They should reward you for being skilled enough to have the spider get hit 3 times by giving 3 hits. But instead they just artificially pad out the boss fight just to be epic. I don't like that in game design. I think that they should reward your skill. Like, Wind Waker let you one-cycle bosses. Like, you could complete the forest boss in just 1 cycle if you spin attacked enough. That rewards skill. Every boss should reward skill. It's more important to do that than to look epic when, by definition of the fact that they're in a 3D game, they are already epic. I mean, they have like a fancy intro cutscene, they have like camera angles and stuff. But yeah, I like this boss. You also fought Goma in Zelda Oracle of Seasons, which also had larvae, and it was mandatory there because you needed to defeat the larva to refill your supply of the item that you used against it. And this is also unique. This is a moment of levity in this game. And I like how the music gets all humorous too. But one bomb arrow finishes it off. Good luck actually hitting with it though, since it's so far away, and obviously trying to go up to it and target isn't gonna work since you're just gonna target the regular enemies instead. Shouldn't the boss be of a higher priority? And of course, like, manual aiming, like, I'm an expert at aiming when it comes to this game, but not when it involves hitting moving targets. Obviously, hitting moving targets is going to be pretty difficult, especially when it keeps on moving left and right. So you can't even anticipate where it's going to be next and shoot accordingly. Really, Midna? It could be something that we'll ultimately have to destroy. Nope, that never happens. Lame. It's like they do so much foreshadowing with the fused shadows, like making Link look like he's possessed, and this. But the problem is that it's a cool concept, but they do nothing with it. Like, it's ultimately like it possesses Yetta, and it possesses the Ook, or was it just some spider that possessed him on his head? Was the spider infused with the fused shadows somehow? What's the point? Like, why didn't you just... If the spider isn't involved with the fused shadow, then why didn't you just have the fused shadow possess Ook instead? It's like, my original point was, Goma is already evil. Goma's already a monster, so why is she blaming the fused shadows for that? I'm pretty sure we would have had to fight a boss anyways, even if the fused shadow wasn't there. That's not even fair, Agatha. Like, really? How is she supposed to know that you're able to go into the past and find a golden bug in the past? And the weird thing is, like, because snails can actually change their gender, like, that's something unique about them. Because of that, and the fact that this snail is in the same general location as the one in the present, this implies that you're actually using the same snail each time for the male and the female. One's just older than the other. I mean, I guess that's trying to pretend that snails can live for hundreds of years. Or maybe it's their ancestor, which is also creepy because you're basically giving one snail a dance partner as their ancestor. Like, are the male and female golden bugs like mating with each other, or is it just a dance? I hope so. If the past snail is the other one's ancestor. But yeah, it might actually be a male. In the Japanese version, it says it could actually be a male or female. That's a creepy line. Like, she wants to take a bath in snail slime. Sometimes makes me wish that sometimes make me think that she has an outright fetish. Which is weird because she's, like, how old is she? I mean, she's dressed like a little girl, but wow, Link's face literally looked like it was made of bloom there. You couldn't even see his eyes very well. That's one thing that the HD version fixes. But yeah, I'm at this point in the game where once again, I'm just going to be spending all my money on giving the parrot way too much money because that's just how little money things they give you. Like, I mentioned it a lot earlier, but with the whole charity box thing where you build a bridge and then build a new Malamart, I think it would have been much better if you were able to rebuild Kakariko Village instead of leaving it a ghost town with, like, boarded up windows and nobody actually living in there. I think it would have been a lot better if you could just spend money to repopulate the village. But instead, you have not one, but 2 ghost towns in this game. I mean, I get this trying to be a bleak tone, but really? That is so lame. By the way, you never do actually need to go to Telma's bar. I mean, like, for the freedom fighters, you never actually have to go to the bar to meet up with the freedom fighters. It's just an optional thing. I like doing it because I like feeling like I'm working with the freedom fighters. Like, it's a nice togetherness concept. This doctor is actually kind of a pervert, because, like, if you talk to him, he asks if Ilya has actually been talking about him. I don't know if I show it off, I guess I don't. But yeah, like you talk to him at some point, and he asks if Ilya, a teenager, talks about him. I mean, I'm not really sure how old Link is. Is Link supposed to be an adult in this game? Or is he supposed to be like a late teenager? I'm assuming that Illy is the same age, so if she is an adult, then I guess it'd be kind of fine, except the doctor is like an old man with white hair, so never mind. But yeah, this is another side quest section of the game that pads the game out until the next dungeon. The city in the sky has the most padding out of any dungeon in the game. I guess because the people who made the dungeon were very proud of themselves and wanted to really make you feel like it was epic, like it was epically built up to. I don't think that was really necessary though. Like, why can't, I mean, I get it. Like, Ilya is Link's childhood friend, so of course getting her memory back, that side quest is going to be mandatory to beat the game. Here's the thing though. As I'm going to demonstrate, you don't actually need to give her her memory back. You can beat the game without ever giving Link's childhood friend her memory back at all. You can go through all the steps of showing her the statue, but you don't actually have to do the final step, even though that shows you a cutscene. So yeah. What I'm showing off here accidentally is that apparently you have to do something to progress that. Like, if you don't press anything, then it'll just stay on the hidden skill jump strike screen, which is kind of weird. Like, how are you supposed to know that? So that's kind of weird. Oh yes, it's the jump strike. One of the most unnecessary and useless abilities ever. Hey, let's give you a shockwave attack that you have to charge up for 8 billion years to use. Well, that was pointless. I mean, it's good to have a shockwave and all, but what's the point if you have to charge it up and leave yourself extremely vulnerable to enemy attacks? By the time that you finish charging it up, you're going to get attacked anyways. In theory, it's good for dealing with a large amount of enemies at once, but you know what's also good for that? The quick spin attack, which doesn't need charging up at all. So that was pointless. Like, I love the idea of improving the jump slash, but what's the point? And, okay, I don't understand how she forgot about the hidden village. Okay, like, it's confusing. So, what's the chronology of this? Was she at the hidden village first, and then appeared at Castletown later? Because here's the thing, like, you find, when you're a wolf and you're in the Twilight, you look for Ilya's pouch, and then you follow the scent of her to Castletown. You never have any scent of her leading into the hidden village before that. So that's kind of confusing. Like, it makes you think that she was in Castletown first when she wasn't. Why doesn't she remember the hidden village? I mean, I thought that she lost her memory because of the whole got hit with the tranquilizing arrow thing in Orden Spring. Wouldn't that mean that she would lose her memory? But then she would experience the hidden village stuff afterwards, and so she would remember that, wouldn't she? Or was she asleep the entire time? Except she's able to remember the hidden village after you show her that statue, so she clearly was conscious during it. That is some really arbitrary memory mechanic. I love this part of the game. The Western music, like, you would not expect to have a Wild West shoot-'em-up section in a Zelda game. But somehow it works, because you're basically doing the same thing you've been doing all game. Well, not all game, but, like, you're shooting with arrows enemies from really far away. It's not like you're shooting actual human beings, so it's not horribly out of place for a Zelda game. Here's the problem, though. They don't really give you enough arrows. It's not like there's a whole bunch of jars or barrels right next to you that will actually give you arrows. Like, I have 10 now, and there's 16 of these guys. So I'm pretty much screwed to run out of arrows. That is kind of my fault, though. I should have remembered I should have gotten the idea to buy more arrows before I got here. But I think the problem with that was that I had already spent my money on the parrot, so I didn't actually have enough money to buy more arrows at this point in the game. I guess I should have planned it out better with the whole finances thing. Here's the thing, with what the Goron says to you, like, with what Darbus says to you, you'd think that you wouldn't actually need, like, it makes you think that it's a stealth section, but really, it is perfectly fine to just go right up to the Bubblins and defeat them. I used to think as a kid that you weren't really allowed to do that at first, and I was relieved to discover that wasn't really the case. Obviously, you can't really jump. Leap from the very narrow ledges, like right here, as a wolf. You have to do it as Human Link because he's like, all he really has is like feet. Like, he's standing upright, while Wolf Link takes up a lot more space on the ground because he's a bipedal, because he's like a wolf. So you can't really climb up to it and jump off it very well. But yeah, I like this part of the game, but I don't like how I literally had to farm for arrows here by picking up the... That's bullshit! Like, it hits your shield, or you can deflect the arrow, and you won't be able to collect it. It just vanishes. Like, that's another thing. Why do the enemies have fire arrows, but you can't ever use fire arrows in the actual game? Just a previous game ago, you were able to use fire arrows just fine. Why is it only now that they're restricted to other enemies? That's about as glaring as having a Zelda game where you never get the boomerang the whole game, and yet you face enemies like Gorias that use boomerangs against you. So yeah, this is basically what the magic armor does. It makes you invincible at the cost of rupees, which is fantastic. That's the perfect money sink. And it's good for protecting you in what would normally be inherently cheap situations, like when you're forced to manually aim upwards at enemies that are going to be shooting at you while you're spending forever trying to aim at them. And I'm going to take advantage of that again later. But yeah, the Dominion Rod lost its power. The Dominion Rod lost its power. It's completely useless right now. And that's explained as the longer it spends away from the sky, the more power it loses. Which is really an arbitrary way of forcing more padding on us. Like, does the magic really need to work that way? I mean, I guess it does generally work that way for the Master Sword. Like you need to temper the Master Sword to get to as powerful as it could possibly be in A Link to the Past. Like, it was, you can actually, like, when you first got the Master Sword, it was at level 2. You'd think that it would be more powerful than that. And of course, there's also the fact that in Wind Waker, the Master Sword lost its power over time. So, it does have historical precedent in Zelda, but still. Basically, like, what's stupid is, the Dominion Rod came with us. It was on our time span. Why did it still age and have its magic wear off? We brought the Dominion Rod with us through a time portal. And Link didn't age. Link didn't crumble to dust from aging extremely rapidly. So why is it that the Dominion Rod aged, but not Link? It's just inherently arbitrary. And again, this is yet another ghost town. Why are there 2 ghost towns in one game? That's a terrible idea. I mean, look at this place. Basically what they did with the Hidden Village was, Kakariko Village in Ocarina of Time was founded by Sheikah. She's a Sheikah. So this is basically them splitting Kakariko Village into 2 towns. Did both of those towns need to be ghost towns? I would really like to see a game, other than Breath of the Wild, where the Sheikah tribe were just as much of a big focus as the Gorons and the Zora. Cause, like, we saw some of that with the Sheikah revolting with the Yiga clan in Breath of the Wild, but other than that, like, the Sheikah are just, most of the time we see them, there's barely any of them left, even though they're supposed to be the entire race of people serving the royal family. So, like, Does the royal family have a history of committing genocide against the race that's a servant race to them? I mean, the Shadow Temple implies that, so that's kind of weird. I don't understand why they would do that. Like, what do they have to gain from it? And like, if there's so few Sheikah, like, in Ocarina of Time there's only one Sheikah left, and that was Impa. How did she have a descendant that ended up being Impa's? It's like, okay, imagine that Impa had children, even though she looked pretty old in Ocarina of Time, but whatever. Imagine she somehow found a husband, got married, had kids. Okay, who would those kids have kids with? And even if they did, that would still dilute the Sheikah bloodline. And so I don't think that the Sheikah bloodline would be full enough by the time Impaz, like, gets born. How would she be a full-blooded Sheikah? There aren't enough left. But yeah, this is a truly bullshit part of the game. Just because Impaz is outdoors at all, you can't turn into a wolf. So you have to go through all the trouble of going all the way outside the village and going all the way back in order to get the Howling Stone. I think that's extremely arbitrary and lazy programming. Like with every other NPC in the game, they're able to understand that you're in front of them, and so you could just hide behind a bush and then transform into a wolf. But with Impaz, all she has to do is be outside, and she can just not be looking at you at all. Yeah, I think this might be the hardest song to memorize in the game. This is actually the main theme of Twilight Princess. This is the one Howling song in the game that's completely original. Every other Howling song is not original at all. You don't necessarily need to listen to the song before you howl it. I think you can just press up and down, holding the A button, and you'll get the blue trails to appear anyways, and then you can just howl it just fine. I didn't really want to do that though. I wanted to try and test my pitch recognition, and it worked for the most part. Like, I like to howl long enough, like, so that it actually sounds like Wolf Link is howling the song. What is this wolf dimension anyways? Like, this seems like a kind of weird place. Another thing weird is that Goma doesn't actually have a second phase. Unless the phase where you defeat it, and then it turns out you didn't defeat it, and you have to chase after it when it's really tiny counts. But that's not really a phase 2, is it? I mean, you defeat it with just one bomb arrow. It's more of a joke second phase if anything, which isn't very epic. Like, you'd expect that of an early game boss. There is a side quest where you can find all the cats in the village and talk to them while Wild West music plays, but I was so pissed at not being able to activate it for no reason. I talked to the chicken and nothing happened. What do you have to do? Like, do you have to progress the game? Do you have to almost have beaten the game in order to do that side quest? That's arbitrary.